Today's video, we are going to be talking about the 3 new leaked player of the months. So, just before the video does start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch. For the cheapest premium trading service for just £4, €4, or free with Amazon Prime. You'll get yourself daily trading and investing guides covering both Xbox and PlayStation with an array of different techniques depending on your budget. I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million on multiple titles, and recently making over 10 million in the first month for the last 3 years. So we are back with another year, which means we are back with more leaks. Hooray for excitement. And what we're going to do is we are going to talk about the market impacts of these leaks. How they're going to, basically we're going to talk about how they're going to drop players' prices, so other players' prices, what might rise for them, and I guess what would be maybe good link investments or whatever. And I'll show you why that's the reason later down the line. So, we have got 3 players I've leaked. We got the player of the month from the Prem, we got the player of the month from the Serie A, and we got the player of the month from the La Liga. All pretty nice players, which as a result should all have pretty decent impacts on the market. So, let's go and start off with Mr. Marcus Rashford. So, Marcus Rashford has going to won himself the Premier League POTM. We would expect him next Friday, could be as early as this Friday, but bear in mind we've had no POTM so far this week. I'd be very surprised. Normally what happens to POTM is voting is for the first Friday to the second Friday, and then the POTM comes out over on the second Friday. Obviously, you know, in 2 days' time that would be, I don't think it'd even be the first Friday of the week, but nonetheless I would go and expect him on the likes of the 7th, because I think we got Ronaldo on the 6th last year. Now Rashford's coming in a nice card. I believe this card would be between a striker and a left wing. You might get the secondary positions of a left wing, but we will go with the presumption that he is going to be a striker. And I'd say not a bad looking card. And what works really well in his favour is his POTM should not be too expensive. Because his base card this year is 25k. In previous years his base card's been about 200k. I would therefore, as a result of his base card being about 25k, I would presume that this POTM would be the best part of about 220k to 270k. You might luck out and have a little bit lower, but I'd be quite surprised. Now the requirements for this, I would imagine, will be the best part of like an 86 rated squad, another 87 or another 86 rated squad, an 85 rated squad with a team of the week, and you know, just miscellaneous Man United and England players. Now for said squads themselves, I'll be honest with you, I don't think the investments are crazy. But if you want to go and buy these players during the likes of rewards or whatever, these are sort of players that will rise in the pre-hype. So they won't necessarily be what's needed, but they'll be what people are going to buy thinking they'll be needed. Now we start here with Harry Kane, and the reason why Harry Kane's pretty decent is because you've got Harry Kane as an 89 rated, but your next highest rated player, that is SBC fodder, is coming in at Trent, whose price range isn't done. He's not fodder, is Vardy. So you've got nothing really in between an 85 and an 89, which means Kane's so obvious, and he should rise nicely in the pre-hype of it coming out going into next Friday. We then get to the Man United component, and you've got the likes of Casemiro. Not as good value for money, the likes of Casemiro, because I don't think he's quite the cheapest for his rating. But you've got the likes of Casemiro right here, who is 23. Again, a little bit the same when it comes to Man United. You've got Casemiro. You do have De Gea. He's not SBC fodder, and then you go to an 84. So you basically have these two. And you always want to go the highest because it's the most mainstream, and the more mainstream, the higher the chance they'd rise in the hype. In terms of the link investments, the likes of Rashford, obviously a lot of England Prem, you're not really lacking in leagues. Nowadays, when you're looking at links, you're looking at perfect chem links, so English and the same league, or you're looking at club links. Wouldn't back Eriksen, wouldn't back Diego Dalot. Again, the gold cards by that time start becoming a little bit common. I wouldn't look at any link investments. Now, one of the most interesting things to look at, and because we've seen this happen in the past, is okay, if this card is nice and cheap, what would it crash? Now, the reason you bring this up is because if I head over the likes of Footbin, and you remember early days, we got the likes of Fekir. Now, when this card came out, you would have basically seen everyone from a centre mid, an attacking centre mid, to a striker drop. And the reason you would have seen this happen is because why would I run Ben Yedder when I could run Fekir? Why would I run Bruno Fernandes when I can run a Fekir? So these sort of players that are so demanded can drop a whole position within like a, you know, I guess like a double their price range to half their price range. So again, we're just seeing this like the Fekir. We saw this even more the case when we had Benzema. Benzema dropped every single, his flashback card last year. Benzema dropped every single striker out there. We've seen this happen many a time through FIFA, and we can see this very early on. Now, So what we got to talk about is, hey, this Rashford is dropped at about 170 to 200. What would be the lower end? What could he go and drop? Now, first off, every striker. But we would probably have a little look at the more effective strikers. Now, all we got to do for this is we're going to head over to FIFA 23. We're going to go into the league and we're going to go and look at strikers. Boom. Now, there is one man that very heavily sticks out to me. Because again, Ronaldo's about double his price. Could drop Ronaldo, I'll be honest with you. Both Man United, both strikers, both 5-star skillers. But the man I'd imagine he'll drop the most would be Mr. Erling Haaland. Now, the reason he should drop Haaland the most is because their price ranges would be exactly the same. Now, they're very much different cards. Haaland's just a freight train, and Rashford's, he's a bit more Bambi, I'd imagine. So there is different demographics, but if someone's looking at a Premier League striker, especially got to bear in mind Man United is the biggest club in the world, you've also got to understand English hype, you can definitely see them replacing. And one of the main reasons I say this is, basically, if he comes out this Friday, that means that Haaland out of packs for one to watch wouldn't rise very well. So even though he goes out of packs, the demand for him would drop because people would want to do the likes of Rashford. Or if they go and drop him next Friday, that would absolutely crash Haaland's price because not only would Haaland be going out of packs, but the demand for him would decrease anyway. So basically there'd be an increase in supply because he'd be packed, but there'd also be a decrease in demand because people would be selling their Haaland to go and get Rashford. So Haaland would be the main player I imagine would be affected. Robbie Keane I think is a little bit too expensive. Someone like Solskjaer I'd imagine will probably be about 150 by them. Who else have we got? Peter Crouch I can imagine will probably crash there anyway. And I'll be honest with you, I don't believe there are actually that many more expensive Premier League strikers. Not even players you can position change. So yeah, that's what I imagine would be affected. Now if we take out Premier League, the players I think, again, if this Rashford is cheap enough, I'll be honest with you, isn't guaranteed, but it's just something to bear in mind. You got likes of Benzema, who's an expensive striker. I'm looking for the likes of Nkunku. I'm sure I can go and put rare gold in. But the likes of Chris Nkunku would be the sort of player that I would imagine would drop. There you go, it's a bit better. Wouldn't imagine these players are going to be way cheaper. There you go, Chris Nkunku, 169k. I'd imagine he'd be affected. Aubameyang at 40k would be affected, although by the time next week he would be a lot cheaper. And even this informed Kai Havertz that has been released would be affected. So that's Rashford, and I'll be honest with you, I think Rashford has the lowest chance of affecting players out of all three players. So we start off there with the likes of Rashford, and again the leaking did not stop there. For the leaking then carried on to the likes of, if we can go and find him, Min Jae. Now this guy's one of the most interesting cards to look at because this guy can be very meta. I don't actually understand why he got the POTM because performance-based he actually had a very bad month, but maybe Serie A is one of these ones. Hey, you guys can have who you want for FIFA rather than performance-based. Now he's a really interesting card because his nation is very unlinkable. Yes, you got Son. Yes, you got Kim Park Young or the old Man United guy. But I don't think they're going to be very popular cards for his potential price range. This guy's price range for his card, they could generally see him at 50, 60, 70. And I'll be honest with you, he'd be very well demanded. And I think he would generally drop all the centre-backs. The reason for that is we're at the moment still very unsure what the meta centre-backs are. You know, is it Eder Militao? Is it Rudiger? Is it Marquinhos? Kimpembe? Van Dijk and so on. And if 1 week, you know, again, the meta isn't really decided, this guy comes along, this guy could completely shift the meta, especially if his card is very nice. So, yeah, but I guess we'll start off about investments. Wouldn't really look at investments in terms of what's being used for the SBCs. I'd say if you do have a dying urge to look at going investing in something, I'd maybe look at Serie A left backs, right backs, left wings and right wings. The reason I say this is even though chemistry hasn't been guaranteed to be a thing so far with the likes of Di Maria, if it is a thing, obviously, you know, you only get chemistry when players are in certain positions. Kostic is very nice, although he can normally actually he can only be made into a left wing back. Goslin's obviously pretty interesting because there is literally just Goslins and that's about it when it comes to left backs out of fodder. Obviously, you want to move into right backs, you can go and look at the likes of Denzel Dumfries. Again, not many options, but I'll be completely honest with you. I'd say I don't think these are the best investments when I'm going to bring up even better investments. Now, obviously, we look at this guy and he is, once again, from the Republic of Korea or South Korea, not going to be going for those links. Serie A. Now, a lot of people at the moment probably aren't going to have Serie A teams. You'll have the odd AC Milan player in there, but they'll be basically using each other's strong links, which means we now need to go to the Seahorse badge, which is Napoli. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to go and type in Min Jae, if I'm not wrong. There we go. And we are basically going to be looking for his strong links. Now, if you don't remember how chemistry works, basically, if someone is from the same club as another player, they're going to get strong links. And they're going to get chemistry. And all you need is 4 players from the same club to get max chem. Now, what I would be looking at is Raspadori. I'd look at buying him for min price this weekend. Very convinced he'll hit like 10k. And again, there are a few decent players, but I can see him forms being very, very well demanded, especially when he's out of packs. Obviously, his POTM would be out for the best part of about a month. Because it'd be out for the best part of a month, you know, this card will obviously get Team of the Week and it'll be out of packs till Wednesday. So when he's out of packs, he should rise. Lozano this weekend will be a banging investment as well. Obviously a very well demanded card. You then, other than that, do have the likes of Di Lorenzo and you do have the likes of Marco Rui. I'd say they'd be relatively decent. And even Zagadou at a push. And again, the reason they'd be good is because this guy could be like 30, 40k and therefore make absolutely everyone's team. So if he is making everyone's team, and people don't want to go for a Serie A team, obviously you'll go for the strong club links. And these are the players I'd look at, especially these near discard informs. So those are the link investments, and again, they'd be way better to go for than the SBC fodder because you'd almost guarantee them rising with a new set of chemistry. Now, what players would drop for the likes of Matey Boy? I think it generally could get pretty ugly, I'll be honest with you. And a lot of people would say, oh, but won't people go and buy the likes of Tomori as a link investment? There's an outside chance, but centre-backs don't normally complement centre-backs, and strikers don't normally complement strikers. So I would avoid against. Now, again, I do think you'd go and drop with a meta centre-backs with a good enough card, with a cheap enough card. Marquinhos, Rudiger, you'd take a hit on them. Van Dijk might be a bit too different, different world. Koulibaly, I'd imagine he'd take a hit on him. Obviously, Skriniar would. Alaba easily would. The cards that are like 40, 50k would be the prime players that would take a hit. De Ligt, I don't imagine it would be that much by then. Varane would be perfect. Again, Tomori, he would crash rather than complement. Obviously, we have Hernandez, I guess he's relatively cheap. Conde, I can imagine him completely killing. Because again, he should end up having better cards. And if he's a 30, 40k SBC, he will be very, very popular. So, again, if his card is cheap enough, I mean, these players should be dropping anyway. Cards like these centre-backs should be dropping from the full release of the game. They should drop for 4 days. Then after 4 days, they should start rising for the first week in League. But I'd say this guy would just go and kill a lot of the centre-backs because there's a chance he has a very good card for a very cheap price. And yeah, that's about it. That's why his link investments are so good, because he's got a really good chance of being demanded, and that is Min Jae. Also something to look out for, South Korean managers. Because as I say, people aren't going to go for probably the Korean link. If people use a Korean manager, that Korean manager will obviously go and get him on full chemistry, because you've got the Korean manager giving one chem from the Korea, and then getting the other one, and boom, there's one of your chemistries. So you got that and the Napoli links. So we're now going to move to the final one, and I don't think it's quite as interesting. That is Valverde. Valverde obviously just had a team week all week, and now he's got a POTM. Now I'd be surprised if this POTM lets you move into a centre mid. Presuming that he's gone and played on the wing for the whole of the time and getting a POTM. Not that interesting because we've had an inform, I'll be honest with you. Obviously it'll be interesting to see what rating they go for. It should be 1 or 2 ratings above his previous inform, but because it's early days, I'd imagine it'll just be maybe a +1. In terms of investments when it comes to the likes of Valverde, now I don't think anyone would be really looking for the Uruguay links. So what you'd be looking for here would be the Real Madrid link. So if we can go to Gold Rare and we can move into the La Liga / Real Madrid. In fact, this might be the best way to look at it, would be the cheapest buy rating. There you go. So right there, if you are interested, on Futbin you can look at the players who are the cheapest buy rating. And obviously, if one of those are Real Madrid players, obviously that is of high interest. Now, Toni Kroos could very easily rise in the hype. I don't think the hype around this guy would be quite as good as the Prem, because again, we have just had an inform, and they are expected to be kind of the same sort of cards. But and once again, I don't think fodder is the best play when you've got some link investments. But I mean, other than the likes of Kroos, I don't believe there are any obvious options, because everyone else, again, like Modric, is a lot more expensive. So back to the card right here. In terms of links, I'll be honest with you, Real Madrid are thriving. Obviously, Min Jae works really well because he's from Napoli, and Napoli don't have that many good players. But obviously, Real Madrid, no question about it, have players upon players upon players. Even just this week, we've got an inform Modric, we've got ourselves Courtois, obviously not bad, Rudiger, Vinicius, Alaba, Mendy, Eder Militao, Tuchemani. Like, this team is a plethora of great players. I don't imagine much will go up. Maybe the rarer cards like Modric. The reason informs will normally rise is because if a card is rarer, it takes way fewer players to buy it. Again, let's say there's 100 Modric's on the market. If 50 people buy the Modric, he's going up in price. But if there's 1,000 Rudigers, if 50 people buy Rudiger, Obviously, he doesn't really go up as much because a percentage of his total supply isn't purchased as much. So potentially Modric on the Saturday could be an investment, but again, I don't think he's really the player. I think, again, you're looking for Min Jae. But obviously, he would go and affect the price of the La Liga centre mids if he's cheap enough. Obviously, directly, you won't be able to probably play him in a centre mid, but nonetheless, people will use him there, position change people in game. So you imagine the likes of Llorente would take a hit. You imagine the likes of De Jong will go and take a hit. You can imagine the likes of, again, I guess the problem with Modric is they're both complementary and a replacement. So, yeah, you do have to bear that in mind. But, yeah, so basically, La Liga centre mids would take a hit. I don't think it'll be as popular as because of the inform. Unless, again, he has an amazing card for a cheap price. But that would give you my verdict on the likes of these. As I say, there is a chance, because all of these will come in 1 week, that Fodder will just rise and rise and rise. But I think some club link investments, the likes of Min Jae, will probably be the best investments with what we have so far. Also, just keep an eye on your centre-backs, because, again, Min Jae is very cheap, should be very well demanded. And keep an eye on your Prem strikers, because if Rashford is very cheap, then he should drop those players. So I think that's all she wrote. Hope that's helped you with some investments. Hope that's helped you with some things to watch out for, and even giving you guys a little bit of, I guess, an insight into what's going on with POTMs and what should happen with the market. But that has been that, and I shall see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.